The 5th generation of Monster Hunter, I think, will go down as the most divisive period in the series history. Old Gen vs World, World vs Rise. I hope Wilds is more like World. Why is Wilds not more like Rise? Over and over I've been seeing and hearing these things over the past 5 years or so, but never really talked about it directly. Maybe it just seems more prevalent due to the increase of people using the internet these days. Or maybe due to the overall growth of the community, more people equals more voices. Or maybe in turn, both of these facts conclude in more toxic people. It's hard to say, but I'll say what I know. So, bear with me because this is going to be a long video, but I think I'll be informative enough from my perspective to discuss what's wrong with the World vs Rise situation, what I hate about it, and Capcom's folly in the 5th generation. I was going to talk about this in a 6-part series, and I think I'll still do them, which will come out over the next month or so of October, so stay tuned for that. But after seeing a comment online earlier this week, it made me speed up my plans, combining part 1 and part 6 together. So, let's get into it. We'll start off with what spurred me to talk about this topic right now. While on X, I saw a post a couple days ago from Band The Guy Chris, saying, World does some things while yet falters in other areas, Rise does some things while yet falters in other areas. Both have their strengths and weaknesses, yet I still enjoy them both. Like World more than Rise? Cool. Like Rise more than World? Cool. Like Monster Hunter? I think we all do. World and Rise are Monster Hunter, right? Can we all agree we like Monster Hunter? Seriously, World vs Rise is an annoying topic. And I 100% agree. You were spot on. A fair comment concluding the past 5th generation as a whole. But then, I saw a reply that was just plain bad. Missed the point and was just a terrible thing to see right after a great comment to share peace from Band. Maybe you should tell Risers to stop whining and bitching out of nowhere and go back to grinding anomalies for another 500 years on their supposed superior and perfect and hard and game. It's repetitive and annoying. I was shocked, but more than that, I started to get pissed off the more I thought about it. Band was legit just trying to stop the battles. This really didn't need to be said. And right after, you're legit doing the same thing he's talking about. It's hard to comprehend. I blocked out the name of the guy because I don't want to push more hate that way. But god damn, this is a bad comment. It's just plain terrible. What made me even more annoyed is that he's a large presence in the Monster Hunter community on X. And recently, me and the person have been on good terms. He's even been in some of my streams and stuff. But that fact won't stop me from talking about this topic. I don't know. Normally I just brush this aside. But this time, maybe it was the word he uses. The word specifically Risers have been pushing these battles pushed me over the edge. And we'll get into that. And it's funny, because someone who replied to him even said, what do you mean? It was World guys that started it by saying Rise was shit compared to World. And yeah, he's right. But we're going to get into that in this video. And much more. So stay tuned. If you look on my channel, throughout the 3 years of doing Monster Hunter content, I have never even touched the topic. Rise vs World, the holy grail for Monster Hunter YouTube content creators. Over 300 episodes of Monster Hunter, and not once did I push into that realm. Now, there are 2 main reasons for that. 1, I didn't know enough about Iceborne to talk about the topic. I don't like talking about things I don't know enough about, so I avoided the topic. It would have been easy for me to go play Iceborne just to show I have some clout, but no, I don't ride other people's ideas. People ride me, so I stayed in my lane. My lane was doing what I enjoyed, and that wasn't a topic I'd enjoy engaging in. I know it would have gotten me views, depending on what side I landed on, but I didn't want to push my YouTube career that way. I will always be true to myself. That was a promise I made to myself when I made this channel. The focus will never be money, fame, or anything of the sort. If I didn't have anything to say on a topic, I wouldn't make the video. There's been countless of times I've recorded a video, and before uploading it, I was like, nah, I don't like it. It's not me. It's not Nova. Leave it. So I stayed away. And 2, I was tired of dealing with the hate. I remember back to when I was doing bad takes. Those were the first videos I did that actually got a response from the Monster Hunter community. And they were fun. Making fun of people who were saying bad things in stupid ways about other people who were either just enjoying the game, the creators, or even the game itself. I ripped into those people and people really enjoyed it. But shortly after finishing my 4th video, I never returned to the format. Why? I was tired. Yeah, the videos were funny as heck and they were getting me views, but it just wore me down. I was tired of having to defend a game I enjoyed and why I enjoyed it, and seeing people constantly berate others for enjoying or looking forward to certain things. I was tired of seeing people constantly attacking the thing I wanted to play and enjoyed. So, I didn't engage. I stayed in my lane. Now, I have no issue with someone if they dislike something or hate something that I enjoy. It's not people's opinions I dislike, it's how they express them. They left no room for fair and honest discussion. These analysis videos I do, or investigations, there's a reason why I show an evolving process of me with a question or a problem and looking for an answer. I want to show the viewers a thought I have, why I thought it, and what conclusion it led me to, and possible solutions to remedy the problems I see at hand. And open invitation to bring in engagement for watchers so they can say, Nova, this doesn't make sense, or Nova, I enjoyed this, and I agree. Looking back at those Monster Hunter videos I've done, I've replied to almost every single one. I've liked, read, and written a constructive comment to engage with agreements or disagreements. Because I love to learn. I love to see what other people think, so I leave the conversations open for agreements or disagreements. And I think that's healthy. There's been so many awesome people who have replied with great comments, either agreeing or even disagreeing, but they do it in a respectful way, and I love it. I learn, and hopefully they learn too. But things like this were never about learning. There is no learning here. The only thing I learned from these people is that they are dickheads for making these type of comments. There is no constructive arguments to have here. No questions, no thought, just rage. The rage that builds possibly from a place of love, but a failure to understand how to regulate those emotions. Now, rage in itself isn't a bad thing. I mean, we've all gotten angry, but the way people go about it matters. And I'd feel like I'd be doing a massive disservice if I didn't say something right now. I mean, I was there in those times when Rise was coming out, and that's what made me so tired all those years ago. And maybe that's what pushed me over the edge when I saw that comment and I started to think back to those times. Even before the game came out, there were people attacking the game. It was ruthless. I wish I was online in the Monster Hunter community to see how it was for World. I've heard stories of old Jenners hating it, but I haven't seen it for myself, so I can't talk too much about that side. But I wish I knew, to see if it was on the same scale as it was with Rise before the game came out and following after. So, I could have an understanding of how Worlders felt during those times, but sadly, I don't have those experiences. Even now talking about my experiences, I feel slightly wrong, as if I'm giving anecdotal experiences as proof. But I still want to talk, and for people who get to the end, you can decide if you resonate with what I'm saying or not. So, back in 2021, nothing else I did really picked up with the Monster Hunter community. But the bad takes did, and I was happy. So I did another, and another. But the battles, the anger, the rage. I got tired of it all, so I wanted to stop. You see it in my upload schedule. I started making content for Rise around the 2nd of July for a month. I was just so tired. I was tired of doing videos on toxic comments. But when I was trying to do uplifting ones, and then I see ill-faith conversations online about the game, it really slowed down my motivation. So, I put all my effort into one last video for the base game, and I still think it's one of my favorite videos I've made so far. So I took a month off of YouTube to think about Rise and the situation around it. The good points, the flaws, the fans, the haters. I put all my energy into that. I could have easily bashed the game or glazed it. Instead, I did neither. I talked for about 50 minutes of what I loved, liked, disliked, and hated. I tried to be as fair as possible to myself, the game, and the people around it, covering many factors of the game, and I enjoyed doing that. It was just kind of sad, you know. The first game I started covering in the Monster Hunter space that I really liked. The first time I interacted with the Monster Hunter community online, and I saw hate straight away, and it sucked. Honestly, it was tiring for the soul. I mean, I've been a fan since Try, but I just stayed in my lane. I didn't talk to anyone about it. I didn't know anyone about it. The only people I knew who liked Monster Hunter are my real life friends, the ones I still play with today. But I'm not even just thinking about myself here. Over the times of making content on YouTube, I've seen subscribers of mine having similar feelings. And my community was pretty damn small back then. And I'm just thinking about the wider audience and how people felt during those times. It's honestly a lose-lose situation. No one's winning. And I get it. For the people who are disappointed, I understand your disappointment in either World or Rise. I've been there. And let me give you an example of something in my own life. Star Wars. I was a massive fan. Loved the series. Episode 1 to episode 6, loved them. Watched the Clone Wars, loved the show to death. Played KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, Republic Commando, Battlefront 2, you name it. And when Disney took over, I was skeptical. But I thought, you know what? Let me give them a try. Let me see what they got. I even remember back in the day, South Park did an episode on the situation. And they were talking about how would Disney hold up Star Wars correctly? Would it actually give it the love it wants and needs? Or would they just leave it to burn? And we have to wait and see. And I was in a similar boat. But then when they took over, they cancelled the Clone Wars. They closed down LucasArts, the people behind many of the classic games. And what I loved for the franchise was gone. I had rage. I didn't like the new movies, I didn't like the new content, but even with that, I never felt the need to go to attack fans who enjoyed them. Never. And even when I had those opinions on a topic, and I talked to someone who liked it, I always tried to be fair about what I liked and didn't like, in a respectable manner. Attacking someone for liking something that I hate doesn't do anything but make me feel a little better temporarily, and someone else a lot worse. Cause in the end, you're still gonna feel the same way about those things. When you go about spreading hate in that way, it's not about making a change or sharing opinions. It's about making yourself feel good that you brought someone else down from the high they felt. How can someone else enjoy themselves that much? I wish I could enjoy, but I feel terrible, miserable, I hate it. I hate that they can have so much fun. I need to bring them down to my level. It's pathetic. What a sad way to be. There's nothing to be gained here, only things to be lost. And it's not about change either. More Star Wars stuff, sorry guys, I'm pissed off. What annoyed me so much about the fanbase is even if something good comes out, the way that both sides act isn't helping anything. No one wins. The fans who are on the negative side won't recognize the good when it comes out, and the ones who like everything aren't up for discussions on the topics. What person is going to listen to you when you just attack them over and over? It just divides. No company is going to look at your hateful comments and be like, yo, this guy told me I should die. But it's got a good point that Insect Game doesn't do enough damage. Nah, they're going to look at your comment and be like, what the fuck is this? This guy's on crack or some shit. Blocked. There is no real conversation to be had. Imagine this. You write an essay on something you enjoy and think you've done a good job. A random teacher has a look at it and goes, yo bro, the font you used is fucking dumb. I can barely read this shit. The fuck were you thinking? I mean, yeah, maybe it's a point. And you shouldn't be using wedding font on your thesis paper. But the way she said it is terrible. How are you going to feel after seeing that? I'll give you a hint. Not good. The message gets muddled in the actual criticism. It's like, man, I'm full of scenarios today. It's like she shot all of your notes and handed it back to you. No one wants to read that. I don't want to touch your shit. Go wash your hands, take a shower, and stop watching degenerate porn, you weird fuck. Like, goddamn, is it so hard? Granted, there are some people who can see through the shit. I call them shit bearers. They bear the brunt of the discourse and are able to give a benefit of a doubt that maybe that guy's just having a bad day. And maybe behind all those Kongolala invested excrements, there's a valid point. But in the end, you're just doing yourself a disservice. You're not helping your own cause if you're constantly bashing something instead of being open to dialogue. Not everyone can act like the shit bearer, so it's best to assume they're not, for your sake. One comment I kept seeing, or at least comments along these lines, yeah, Monster Hunter's back to form. They're course correcting. Really? Really, nigga? How can they course correct from a formula they've been using for years? Main series, portable series. I remember there was a video from Radatuska a while ago. And by the way, we're decent friends, so no hate here guys, honestly. We even used to play Yu-Gi-Oh together. I'm just talking about the situation, and I think what he said rings well to how worlders who dislike Rise may feel. Anyway, he said something along the lines that he wasn't ready for what Rise was. He didn't expect such a shift from what he knew from Monster Hunter World. Capcom should have conveyed it was a different tone of game. I never thought about it too much at the time, but recently, it's been on my mind. And I was like, hang on. I've only started to play Souls games, starting with Elden Ring, which I've beaten now, and I'm on the DLC getting my ass kicked by Mesmer. Could you imagine if there was a new Souls game and it wasn't open world, and I came into the fan base and was like, yo, why isn't this like Elden Ring? I expected Souls games to be like Elden Ring, not Bloodborne or Dark Souls. Well, firstly, I'd look pretty damn stupid. And secondly, is it really on the developer to convey the differences to me? Yeah, probably. I'm sure Capcom didn't anticipate these type of responses, given they just came off a major win, and in their eyes, they were just delivering back to the community they've been releasing to in the past. Well, sort of. I'm hoping in the future, Capcom have learned from this, they will convey correctly what type of game is coming out and what it's going to be like. But this doesn't excuse things such as bugs and missing features. But coming back to the point about new fans, it's just strange to me if I was to come into a new fan base, not understanding much about the past, and then proclaiming what the future should be. That's just weird. Yes, you can have preferences and hopes, but to feel as if a series should go in a certain direction because of something you enjoyed and major aspects of the past need to go, that does not sit well with me. Yeah, you could say World made a massive amounts of money, brought new players in, and is the most selling game in the series, so that's how it needs to be from now on. And I'd look at you stupid and say, shut the fuck up. There's been many of games, movies, and things in life that when they changed appeal to mass audiences, they've seen success. Do you think Pokemon Sword and Shield is better than Ruby Red or Black and White? The new FIFA games are better than the old ones in 2000s? Halo Infinite better than Halo 2? What I'm trying to say is don't use the fact of something making a lot of money for the reason that it needs to be the golden standard of how things should be. There are values of things all over the history of the franchise, and in products that didn't sell anywhere near as much as World. And yeah, it's in Capcom's best interest to make as much money as possible. But I hope Capcom continues to take aspects from all areas of the game and introduce them as we keep going forward. That they, and also the fans, don't forget what makes Monster Hunter at a core level on the way to its growth. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Capcom shouldn't appeal to the new audience. What I'm trying to point out is just because something is a success doesn't mean it is the best thing in every sense of the word. Because this has happened to many franchises. As they go on and try to branch out too much, they can lose some of the old core fans on the way. And this leads me to my next point, which was going to be a video in that series I talked about. The Great Divide. The fact that such a division in the 5th gen actually makes a lot of sense. It's not a surprise to me at all. I mean, at first it was a surprise back then when Rise was coming out. But over the years, I started to think about it, and yeah, I got it. It makes sense. The games are different. Of course there's going to be fans who like one and not the other. And I've heard back in 4th generation we had a similar thing, where 4U fans didn't like Generations. But before I get into it, let me emphasize once again, because I know people think I'm trying to put other people's opinions down. It is not the fact that people have differences that's the problem. It's the way that people express those feelings. So, let me give you an example. There are 14 weapons in the game, each with different appeal on fans, wants, uses, tactics, etc. Yet, in recent months, talking to different fans, they all are looking for different things from their weapons and the games. They perceive things in a different light and have different priorities. Let's take Lance for example, as I've used many videos analysing its gameplay over the years and in the upcoming Wilds. There are some fans who want Iceborne Lance, there are some who love Sunbreak, some who are disgruntled that Lance hasn't had a major change over the years, and there are some who don't want it to change at all. And all of that makes sense. Even within the same weapon type, there are many different type of players out there who originate from different games in the series and have different interests for themselves. And as there are differences in choices of weapon, there are differences in what people look for in the game and what they appreciate from it. And as each weapon plays differently, Wise and World are different in a similar aspect. There's a game series I've loved since I was about 14, a game called Guild Wars. Even till this day, I still make videos on that 20-year-old series. And what happened to that series reminds me of what's been going on in Gen 4 and 5 and the strifes in between. In 2012, 7 years after Guild Wars 1 was launched, ArenaNet, the studio behind the game, came out with Guild Wars 2. I was hyped for the game. In fact, most fans were. But when it came out, there were quite a lot of differences. Guild Wars 1 focused a lot on strategy, team building, theorycraft, and I loved that. Guild Wars still had theorycraft, but it was less of a focus. The strategic elements wasn't really a focus anymore, and the gameplay was faster, with more effects, flashier, and less depth you could say when it comes to the strategic elements of how you approach a battle. It was more about how you adapt in a battle, which is a bit difficult to understand unless you've played the game before. I've actually for years wanted to do a video on the comparisons and similarities between Guild Wars 1 and 2 and the 5th gen in Monster Hunter, because I've been there before. This isn't new to me. ArenaNet wanted to appeal to a larger audience. They added in a lot of quality of life, new graphics, and a new style of combat. The old game made by some ex-WoW developers where you couldn't even jump now had a new paint job where you could jump. In fact, it was great, fantastic even, but still not the same feeling as Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 1 is a rare breed of game I'll never see again. Guild Wars 2 added mechanics from new expectations from gamers of the modern era. It was great, but it still just wasn't the same. A similar feeling from going from 4th gen to 5th gen, and even how some people may feel in between the 5th gen games. I still love Guild Wars 2. Heck, I put like 7k hours into the game, even though it was different. I still loved the game for the good it brought and the differences in those changes. But in the end, they were basically two different games. They had Guild Wars in the title, but apart from that, and being set in the same world, Guild Wars 2 could have been a different game from a different developer. And that's something I wanted to warn Capcom about. Don't forget about your roots for success, because in time, you will become a game that you no longer recognize. Yes, maybe still a great game, but not with the same feeling. And as it did to the Guild Wars community, the Monster Hunter community will continue to split and drift apart. There are fans of Guild Wars 1 who hate Guild Wars 2 to death. They'll bash it on any occasion. And I always found those conversations difficult because I love both games and I get their frustration, but the way they're delivering their problems wasn't the best of way to do it. In the Monster Hunter community, we're lucky. If you don't like a mainline game or portable, at least we get a new game every 3 years or so. In fact, the last meaningful Guild Wars 1 update was back in 2011, yet us fans still play the game we love because it's a great game. I talk about all this to push the point that it's not surprising that there are people who like one game and not the other. The games are different. Liking or disliking something isn't a problem. It's the way that people portray that dislike. Do better. And also, I tell this story to tell to worlders, look, I get it. I've been there with Guild Wars, and even another game I hold dear to my heart, Unreal Tournament, and how Epic Games left it to die for Fortnite. And my example of Star Wars earlier, I understand your feelings, but the way that some of you are trying to get your message across, it's just lame. Now, this brings us back to my experiences of Rise before launch, which will be this next topic. We've talked about it in different parts of this episode in pieces, but here we're going to talk about the real reason behind the initial hate, plus it's okay to disagree. Now, before any world players who had fair concerns starts to think I'm lumping them all in the same basket, I really don't mean to do so. The next section about disagreeing is recognition to those who say they have a problem, but in a fair way. So, back when Rise was being marketed, some people hated the game before it even came out. How can you hate something before even trying it? It's difficult for me to comprehend that notion. Yeah, for sure there may be some ideas you don't like, or even concepts you strongly disagree against. But without playing it, how can you give a fair criticism about anything? As I've alluded to previously, hate comes from a place of love. Although, for my overall analysis, it comes down to two things when it comes to people's hate before the game even came out. Exclusivity and graphics. Oh, you thought I forgot about that one, didn't ya? It's been 3 long years. We'll start with exclusivity. The game only being on the Switch after being on 3 different platforms was a massive thing. And I get that. Joining a series, loving a game, enjoying the heck out of it, only to see that the next game isn't coming to your platform of choice. Heck, even I'd be pissed. In fact, that's what happened to me in one of my favorite series, Orcs Must Die. The first 2 games were on Steam, and they were great, and then the third one was coming out, and I was super excited for it. It was about 7 years since number 2. I couldn't wait. Then it was announced that it was going to be on the Stadia. The fucking Stadia! I forgot all about that dead system till now, like holy shit. Luckily for them, it didn't die on the crappier, and it came back to Steam later, and it was great once again. So yeah, I've been there too. Not being multiplat raised a lot of complaints even before the game came out. So then any little thing people didn't like would become a big issue. And as I've said before, the thing about that is that the real complaints get lost in a shuffle, and that's where the problems lie. Next, graphics. The birthplace of the 5th generation baby, and a departure as a focus when it comes to Rise. And I get that to a certain extent. I say certain extent because I'm not the type of person who focuses heavily on graphics. I mean hell, we were just talking about a 20-year-old game that I'm still playing on my beefed up rig. Like come on. I can appreciate graphics, but I don't try to bend myself backwards for them. And to be fair to Capcom, for what the Switch could handle, they did pretty much the best they could. It's kind of expected from a hybrid console. And at the time, there were people saying, well, if you can't put out the graphics on World's level, then don't come out with the game at all. And for me, I'm like, okay, if that's how you want to play, this is my rebuttal. I only want to see Monster Hunter on high-end PCs with 4K graphics, 60 FPS, so my XTX 7900 and my i9 13th gen CPU can fully enjoy it. Because that's where it deserves to be. Do you see how degenerate that line of thinking is? That's how those people all sounded like to me. Yet they keep the limits of what they'd allow to what they have access to at the time. And that's just lame. And yeah, I have an AMD GPU and an Intel CPU. It's long stories and I'm not going to explain. Anyway, it's funny to me Because now in Wilds, people are complaining about specs being too high. And if you were the same person saying that Switch bullcrap, I'm sorry, that's cucked behavior. There are plenty of people who've said we don't want to see Monster Hunter Wilds on Switch 2 because it will hold us back while playing on a PS5. And I'm just here thinking, bro, technically you're holding me back, so relax. If you're upset that what you have won't measure up to the specs and you don't act like these degenerates, then I sympathize for you, I really do, and I hope you do find a way that you can play. There was even someone messaging me on my video a while ago when I was talking about the release date and the specs, and he was upset that he might not be able to play it on PC, and that's rough. But if you were one of those dicks back then, and you're acting like this now, you'll get no sympathy from me. I can't tell if those people who are pushing against Rise and Switch are the same ones sad about the Wild specs, but I know they're out there, and they know who they are themselves. And to those people specifically, only to them, and you know who you are, grow some balls, get the fucking upgrade, and stop breastfeeding off your dad's nuts. You see how weird it is when you gatekeep graphics? In the end, you're always going to be below someone when it comes to power. People only have a problem with specs now when their individual interests conflict with what's possible via Capcom. Damn, graphics really got people wilding out here. It's crazy. Next, it's okay to disagree. And what I mean by that is I've seen a trend lately where when you say something negative, people think you're being toxic or a bad person just because you're raising concerns or something you've played and maybe you didn't like. And I want to talk about this just to let people know if they have issues, but don't mean to attack or be toxic to anyone, just wanting to get their thoughts out there. That it's okay. It's great even. And I know it's difficult at times to say something that you want to say without coming across as being an arsehole. Trust me, I've been there. I wanted to also apologize to those who feel like during this video I've offended them by putting them into a box of being toxic. I haven't meant to do so, and I've tried to narrow the subsection of the community that I'm addressing in each part as we go along. And for those people, raise your voice. If there's something you don't like, talk about it, but try to keep it civil, at least. No one needs to hear that someone needs to die for saying something they enjoy or dislike about a game. We really don't need that. I was actually planning on making a video on this topic a while ago, before I went on my mini holiday. After releasing videos on the dual blades and the longsword, reviewing powerful new changes that they both gotten, some people didn't even like the fact that I was even asking the question if something's too powerful or not. Granted, when it came to the longsword video, I realized I didn't know enough about some aspects of the weapon, but besides that, just having an opinion can be seen in a negative light. Definitely when we're in the hype period of Monster Hunter Wilds, people can really get wild up, even when it's fair concerns. And I'll say it again, there's a clear difference between Timmy saying that he's worried about the game running a bit sluggish and it may need more time to cook, then Jimmy who says, man, this game looks like fucking trash. How can Capcom be fine of releasing a game like this? It looks awful, and anyone who likes this is a problem. And you probably don't have eyes, might need some glasses. Go to Specsavers. Do they have Specsavers in America? Now, I hope you can see the difference here. Otherwise, you might as well just click off this video, because nothing I say is going to help. But honestly, it's not just that. There's something even more important that can either make or break a developer's relationship with their customer base. And that thing is Goodwill. Goodwill has crashed and burnt many studios in the past. From studios like Blizzard with Overwatch, to Ubisoft with, well, everything they've made recently. With enough goodwill, customers will overlook some of the blunders that companies make. And Capcom ran themselves on thin ice, which annoys me. Coming back to Rise, yeah, I get it. You wanted to get the game out before the financial year ends, to make the books look good. But at the detriment of your player base? Really? It just gave haters even more ammo. And now I'm just thinking about it. Leading up to Wilds, it's actually in a similar situation as it's coming out in February. Maybe not as close as Rise did to the financial year. The financial year starts in April the 1st. Rise came out on the 26th of March. Wilds is coming out on the 28th of February, I believe. So it still has a month, but it's still quite close, and I'm sure they wanted to do whatever they could to get out before the financial year ends. So I hope before it comes out, Capcom are giving it enough polish to fix up any issues when it comes to performance and bugs and crashes. But for that one, we're gonna have to wait and see. But back to the Rise stuff. If you're a bit lost, there was a period before Rise came out, and Capcom announced DLC down the road. And for one of those releases, they announced it will contain the final story, which raised questions. What is that? And what does it mean? Well, the All-Mother situation, which was fantastic when it came out, but it wasn't in the game at release, and fans had to wait just to finish off the base story. That is a big no-no. The start of an already divisive game started off crippling past the finish line. Capcom, don't do that again. Rise deserved better. the graphics aside, this game should have been a decisive victory, a contender for the best in the series, but it was plagued with minor flaws, and some huge, that held it back. Ugh, how my heart weeps. Don't get me wrong, overall, Risebreakers is still my third favourite experience in the whole series, but it should have been first. It had the potential, and it should have followed through. Goodwill can only bring you so far. Capcom had to do the rest. Even though Sunbreak was an amazing entry, the foundations weren't strong enough to carry it to truly GOATed status in my opinion. Also, the lack of subspecies at launch, but mostly the foundation thing. And to add to that, people had problems with the difficulty, or issues with the polish of the base game, and that just left people burnt out of a Rise, so Sunbreak suffered for it. It's truly a shame. Now this is actually a news section for this video. I was getting footage on Rise when I stumbled across a video from a person called Flaming Knight, and in this video he talked about how the World and Rise debates aren't really a fair debate and for the most part are silly, and a lot of what he said struck a chord with me. It reminded me of some opinions I had in my misconception of Rise video back 3 years ago. The fact that comparing World and Rise isn't comparable, he later clarifies that point, saying that both games focus on different things, and most people aren't focusing on what each game does better in those differences. And yeah, he's right. Very often when it comes to the World and Rise debates, it's all about the graphics, story, immersion and gameplay. And I will say, those all matter to a high degree, but very few people do talk about other factors like the portability, the customization options, the variety in monsters, the adding of new voices, the palamute, the new in-depth palico system, bringing back to what was in the old world. Lower graphics fidelity, yes, but the color palette is grander. I rarely see these type of comparisons. Now, that may be due to the fact that people talk about and focus on what matters most to them, but I'd hope that reviews and debates analyze things all over the spectrum, and not just what they hold dear to themselves. Another thing I see day in and day out in these World vs Rise debates is the argument on Talismans, RNG and Decos. Old school versus new school. People cling to this like it's an indication that yes, my game got it right, let's go back there, or let's stay where we are right now. Bro, they both suck, and instead of fighting over two dumb systems, how about we think of newer systems to suggest to Capcom? For some reason, when it comes to how Well did something or Rise did something, it's always either or. Talisman or Deco grind, fast combat or slow combat, maps like this or maps like that. It's just no to this, no to that. Instead of innovating and improving on what is, it's either tear it all down or let's go back to how it once was. It really feels that there's no nuance in this community, or maybe people just lack imagination, I don't know. There are two old features I think about when it comes to this topic, and one of them I was planning to do a video on. Mountain and underwater combat. Underwater being the one I was going to talk about in another video, but that's for another day. But when it comes to mountain, it used to be pretty rough back in the day when it was first implemented in Monster Hunter 4. Mounts were easy to get, and attacking a monster while someone was mounting caused issues for the whole team. Isn't that kind of weird that just by hitting a monster while someone's mounting it has a bad effect on the team? Then later on in GU they fixed that. Mounting became harder to do, probably due to aerial style being a thing, and yeah, it would be kind of OP in that game if it was just as easy to do. But it also made it so attacking the monster now helped out your team topple the monster, so you could still hit and get in some damage. That was awesome. They innovated on it, and then in Rise they changed the mechanic, but it was still an interesting spin. Now they've gone back to somewhat how it used to be in the older games, with some new interesting moments, and that's awesome. As the series goes on, things should be improved in different ways, and I love Monster Hunter for that. Yet when it comes to Talismans, Deco and Grind, things have pretty much been the same. Instead of debating between two bad systems, there's times you need to think about something new. It doesn't seem like WoWs will be doing something greatly different from World, but it does seem like they are adding in some mechanics that will make it possible to maybe give you a higher chance to get Deco rewards that you want. I won't talk too much on that because it isn't something I've researched greatly, but it's something I plan to talk about in the future. But overall, fighting over two bad systems and what's better for us to have makes for a boring conversation, definitely when we've seen it happen so many times in the past. Instead, let's talk about what we can take from both, what each did wrong, and how a new system can look if we take the best from both, leaving the worst and adding the new to make a new spin on it. See, the future's exciting that way. Now why I mentioned underwater? Well, you have to wait and see in that one for another day, but I'm sure it'll be an interesting topic. Now, a few messages for different parts of the fan base. I'll start with the latest game and work my way backwards. First, my Risebreak brothers. Keep playing what you enjoy most. If it's Rise, keep at it. If Wild excites you, go for it. And if you don't have a system to play on, I feel for you. And I hope you have something to enjoy in the near future. Next, WorldBorners. I get it. I really do. World was your first game and you hold it dear to your heart. The whole reason I spent massive sections talking about Guild Wars and other games was for you guys. So yeah, I really do get it, honestly. You liked what you had and you wanted more of that. Or maybe you didn't. And what came next just wasn't up to your standards. And that's fine. Play what excites you and keep pushing. But I do ask you to respect other hunters and respect Monster Hunter that came before. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Monster Hunter is built on each entry into the series. If the previous games before World are worthless, then World's foundations are shallow. Next, the 4th geners, the last bastion of the old regime. I'm sorry, Capcom isn't going back, and I doubt we're going to get remakes anytime soon. Hopefully Monster Hunter Wilds is as close as it gets to Monster Hunter 4U. And my GU brothers in arms, we just gotta keep waiting to GU2. Al-Qatar will rise again, baby! Yay! My 3rd fleeters, where it all started for me. I don't know much about Purple 3rd, so I won't say much about that. But for 3U players, one day we'll get underwater combat back. Trust me. The Frontier Hunters, the forgotten children of the hunting world. Sunbreak is probably the closest you're gonna get to Frontier, so I hope it did you well. And hopefully one day you have your time to shine again. Monster Hunter 1 and 2ers, the OGs. If it wasn't for you supporting the game back in the day, I wouldn't have gotten to play Try. So thanks for that. The mental fortitude to handle those games must have been through the roof. I respect that. Apart from all that, I hope to see every single one of you in Wilds. And it'll be awesome to hunt with every single one of you when the demo comes out and eventually the full game. I know I've said a lot here. We've gone through a lot of different topics, a lot of different angles of the community, what's been going on, the problems, the good parts, and yeah, I just want to know if you guys feel similar in some aspects or different in others, you know. It'd be nice to get your inputs and what you think. And yeah, all these thoughts are just things that I've been thinking about for the past 3 years and so, but I just never really put them into a video. The last time I properly put this into a video was that misconception of Rise video 3 years ago, and I was planning on doing another one. I just didn't know when to, but after seeing that post, it really spurred me to be like, you know what, I need to say something, because things are just annoying, man. Like, people have just been kind of annoying for the longest of times, and I feel like I need to put my hat in the ring, but in my own spin, you know. I'm not just gonna do a one-to-one comparison between World and Rise, because I don't think that's gonna help anyone. I don't think that does anything for anyone. It doesn't do anything for myself either. And when I finish playing Iceborne, I'm going to talk about the game. I'm going to say what I like about it, what I didn't like about it. Obviously, I got this series I said I'm going to do where I just talk about small aspects or something I do like and not like. And then at the end of World, I will just share my opinions. And also, as we go along, I'm also going to be doing videos telling my opinions of how I feel about the game so far. So next week, I should also have an episode of that, I believe, sometime if I got time, to talk about what I like so far and what my first experience of streaming the game has been like. Well, that comes to the end of this video. I'm sorry guys, it's been a long one. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down below. Is there any section that you guys thought, Nova, I don't really get your point, or Nova, good stuff. Good stuff as always. You know, let me know. I'm not sure when this video is going to come out. I was planning on Friday, the 4th of October, but yes, things have been a bit busy on my end. So if it comes out on Saturday, it comes out on Saturday. And if it does come out on Saturday, well, we're streaming today, Iceborne, late in the day, which is going to be fun. And then tomorrow, well, Sunday, I should say, just in case I don't know what days are going to come out, we're going to be doing Sunbreak Sunday. Let's go. And Sunbreak Sunday, we're going to be streaming Sunbreak with some subscribers and anyone in the chat. And we're only going to do special investigations, no easy quests, the specials all day, the hardest of stuff, hazards, you know it. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just let me know what you think down below. And if there's anything else you want to watch on the channel, yeah, just go ahead. And I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, that's it for me, guys. I'll see you in Wilds. I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.